Hello everyone. We'll give you a wave because we're wearing a mask. So let us know if you can hear us. Good evening everyone. Do let us know in the chat box if you can hear us okay, despite the mask. We'll wait to see if some other people come to join us. Good evening, Isabel. Hi, Catherine. I hope you are all well this evening. Hi, Francoise. Can you all hear us? Can you hear us? Yes, okay, perfect, great, fabulous. Hi Marie, hi Aya. Okay, so as you may have noticed, this evening we have a very special guest for our YouTube Live. So may I present to you the lovely, wonderful Lily.
Hello, hi everyone.
So would you mind just introducing yourself to everyone?
Of course, Tom. So maybe you've seen me in the core collective already, but I'm Lily and I'm the new head of pedagogy and content at Cercle. I'm joining Tom today for my first ever YouTube Live, and we're going to be discussing a really interesting topic. I'll let you introduce it.
Fabulous. Yeah, so you've seen over the last few weeks we've been discussing the history and culture of the British Isles. This week is no different. It's the fourth one in our series. We're going to be talking today about British politics. So a brief overview, a brief introduction to British politics, okay? So, to start off with, just a brief overview of the UK as a whole. As we've said in previous lessons, the UK is made up of 4 different constituent countries, so 4 different countries. So we have England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. And each of these countries has their own form of government, their own local government or national government. However, the overriding government is based in London, the capital of the United Kingdom as a whole. And so it's from here where the sort of national government or the parliament, the UK parliament, is located. And so we have these local governments, but we also have the overriding national government of the UK. Okay? Shall I start or shall you start with this next section? I forget which order we did it in.
I'm happy to continue.
Yeah.
So there are 3 main bodies that make up the Parliament in the UK. And do any of you know what these 3 main bodies of Parliament are?
Any ideas? Any ideas? Who knows?
We can give you a clue. It starts with houses.
So Rosanna has said 2. Anyone else got any ideas?
No? Okay, I will let you know then, not a problem. So there is firstly the Crown, and perhaps some of you have watched the series on Netflix, The Crown, and are familiar with seeing the British Prime Minister visiting the Queen on a weekly basis to give a sort of overview of what's going on in the UK politically. So the Queen has actually very little influence on government. However, she is our head of state and all laws are run by her before they're accepted into sort of British society. So I can see that Yaha has said House of Lords. That's excellent. So yes, we also have the House of Lords. And this is a group of unelected individuals. So ordinary people like Tom and I. Unfortunately, we can't choose who is elected in our House of Lords. It's usually senior members of the Church of England. people such as barons, earls, dukes, and people of high society that are often chosen by the Queen, for example. And then lastly, yes, exactly, I can see someone has written House of Commons. That's our final and third body of UK Parliament. And this is a group of 650 politicians, which are elected by ordinary people like Tom and I, every 5 years. And each one will represent a constituency. And a constituency is another word that sort of means local area or region. And whichever party has the majority of the seats is the winning party in government and will therefore govern the UK. So currently we are governed by the Conservative Party, who have the majority of seats in the House of Commons.
Yeah, thank you, Lily. So in terms of where these three parts of government meet, does anyone know the name of the famous building, or buildings I should say, that is on the banks of the River Thames in central London? Does anyone know what we call this group of buildings where government meets to debate and to discuss laws and policy? Any ideas? So we have Parliament. We're close. That's halfway there. Halfway there. Yes, so Marie has got it. It is the Houses, so plural, Houses of Parliament, which is spelt like this. Parliament is a strange spelling in English. It's spelt parliament rather than parliament. So Houses of Parliament. This is also known as, more formally, the Palace of Westminster, because the Houses of Parliament, or the Palace of Westminster, is, as you might be able to guess, located in Westminster, the city of Westminster, which is a square mile city in the centre of London, the capital of the UK. Okay, so this place is very important. Mostly the House of Lords and the House of Commons will discuss there. The Crown rarely makes an appearance at the Houses of Parliament, apart from on special occasions such as the opening of Parliament each year, and perhaps in other circumstances that are important. But an important reason as to why the Houses of Parliament are perhaps famous in British history is that a long time ago, a particular individual named Guy Fawkes attempted to blow up the Houses of Parliament. Okay? Does anyone know how we commemorate this day in the UK? So we have a special day in the UK where we commemorate this attempt to blow up Parliament by the man named Guy Fawkes, or Guido Fawkes.
It's celebrated on the 5th of November.
Mm-hmm. Any ideas? Any ideas? Who knows? So, for example, we have fireworks. No. Okay, I don't think anyone's got it. So, Lily, would you care to enlighten us? What do we call the 5th of November in British culture?
There's many ways. That says bonfire night,
Mm-hmm.
Guy Fawkes night,
Mm-hmm.
I believe is another way of saying it. And a more familiar way of saying it might be firework night. So we simply watch fireworks in the sky, which is a visual representation of Guy Fawkes trying to blow up the Houses of Parliament.
Yes, so we also, quite morbidly perhaps, burn an effigy. So this is like a model of Guy Fawkes. So we have a bonfire. This is the fire where we have an image or a pieces of clothing stuffed together, essentially a model of Guy Fawkes that we burn, okay? Hence why it's a bonfire night. So we burn this effigy of Guy Fawkes, we have fireworks, and yes, it's a very popular event each year in the UK, as Lily said, on the 5th of November. Okay? So I'll just write that, the 5th of November. We have a rhyme in English, which is remember, the 5th of November. Yes, the 5th of November. You may remember from last week that we did another rhyme to remember the 6 wives of Henry VIII. So a rhyme is always a good way to remember key facts about British culture. We have many of them. Okay, so we're going to focus now on the third group within this Houses of Parliament. So this is the House of Commons, the elected group of politicians who make up the British government, okay? So in terms of the political parties that make up the House of Commons, there are numerous parties in the UK, okay? So as Lily was saying, the current government is the Conservative Party. Does anyone know who the leader of the Conservative Party is at the moment? Who is the head of the Conservative Party? Who is also the Prime Minister? Who is the head of the Conservative Party and the current Prime Minister? Yes, perfect, you've all got it. Boris Johnson. So Boris Johnson is the leader of the Conservative Party. I'll write that down. Conservative Party. And yes, Boris Johnson is the leader of the Conservative Party, and he is also the Prime Minister of the UK. Now, you may remember from a previous lesson that I explained that in the UK we have a Prime Minister and not a President. Does anyone remember why? Why do we have a Prime Minister and not a President, like, for example, the US or France? Why do we have a Prime Minister? Yeah, so you've all got it. The UK is a type of monarchy. It's called a constitutional monarchy, okay? So this means our head of state is currently the Queen, Queen Elizabeth II, and we are not a republic, so we do not have a president. So make sure when you're talking about the leader of the UK, you refer to them as the Prime Minister and not the President. Yes. Yes, as Jean-Louis has said, it's like in Spain. There are other similar countries that both have a royal family and a government, such as Spain, the UK, and other such European nations. Okay, so we discussed the Conservative Party, which forms the majority. The Conservative Party is the UK's dominant centre-right party. So on the political spectrum, we have the centre, we have right-wing, and we have left-wing parties, okay? So the left-wing is more sort of socialist, liberal, progressive. The right-wing is more conservative, okay? So we have the Conservative Party, which is centre-right. And then we have the second largest party in the House of Commons at the moment, the second largest party within the government. That forms what we call the opposition. So the opposition is a group of MPs that are there to hold the government accountable. So the opposition makes sure that the party in power are behaving, that they're making good laws, and they debate against each other to make sure that they're making the best decisions for the country as a whole. Okay, now the current opposition is dominated by the Labour Party. The Labour Party. So, Labour Party. So the Labour Party is the UK's centre-left party. So on the one hand, we have the Conservative Party, the centre-right, And on the other side, on the other hand, we have the Labour Party, the centre-left party. So, Lily, can you give us a key way of distinguishing between the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, perhaps in terms of the colours that represent them?
Yes, I can. So, the Conservative Party is predominantly presented by the colour blue, and the Labour Party is predominantly presented by the colour red.
Yeah, so we have these two. If you see political campaigns, you'll often see blue representing the Conservatives, while red represents the Labour Party. These two parties are arguably the two most popular or most dominant parties in the UK Parliament currently. Okay? So, however, there are numerous other political parties in the UK that also have significant influence. And some of them have even been in power previously, okay? So we are definitely not a two-party state. We have various other political parties as well. So we have parties such as the Liberal Democrats. So the Liberal Democrats are sort of centre-right. They were in a coalition government with the Conservative Party in 2010. So I'll write that, a coalition. So a coalition government is when we have two or more parties joining forces to make sure they have a majority, okay? They're making sure they have a majority. So we have the Liberal Democrats. We then have a very large party called the Scottish National Party, also known as the SNP. So the Scottish National Party, generally speaking, has the majority of the Scottish constituencies. So the SNP is the most popular party in Scotland. Okay, so we have the Scottish National Party, or the SNP. They are currently led by Nicola Sturgeon, who you may have seen in discussions on the EU, Brexit, and other key political events that are happening at the moment. So yes, we have the SNP. Another party in another part of the UK is Plaid Cymru. So Plaid Cymru is the Welsh Nationalist Party. So Cymru is the Welsh word for Wales. And so, yes, Plaid Cymru is the national party in Wales. There we go. Plaid Cymru. So we have the Nationalist Party of Scotland, SNP, and the National Party of Wales, Plaid Cymru. Then we move over to Northern Ireland, where we have the Democratic Unionist Party, or the DUP. And we also have a party called Sinn Féin. So Sinn Féin is it's an Irish language name. Okay, and both the DUP and Sinn Féin are national parties in Northern Ireland, okay, in Northern Ireland. So you have, generally speaking, the SNP operate in Scotland, Plaid Cymru operate in Wales, and then the DUP and Sinn Féin operate in Northern Ireland, okay? So each country within the UK has their own sort of nationalist parties that will be more involved in the governing of that country, okay? But we still have also the UK Parliament that looks at the overall picture of the entire sovereign state of the United Kingdom. We also have, finally, our last sort of major party is the Green Party, okay? The Green Party. So the Green Party is more centre-left, and they focus on environmental issues, ecological issues. Their main sort of manifesto pledge is to tackle the climate crisis, okay? They also have other policies as well. The Green Party is not as popular as some of these other parties, but they've been gaining popularity over the years. Okay, so the reason as to why different areas of the country or the UK have their own national sort of parties is because of a good piece of vocabulary. We have devolved power. Devolved power. So this means that power is spread out across the various countries of the UK so that each country can make decisions for itself rather than being dictated to 100% solely by Westminster or a London-based government. This means that local governments can make policies or laws that benefit their own country, that target their own country's issues, challenges, and needs. Okay. So, for example, the SNP operate within the Scottish Parliament, and the Welsh parties, such as Plaid Cymru, will operate in the Senedd Cymru. So this is the Welsh Senate, essentially, the Senedd Cymru. So we have Scottish Parliament, and we have the Senedd Cymru. Remember that Cymru is the Welsh word for Wales. Okay? So, we've done our little overview of some of the key aspects of British government and politics. So, let's move on to some key vocabulary and phrases. So, Lily, how might I express that I've chosen to support a particular party? How can I show that in a verb form?
So the verb that you would use is to vote. So you could say, this year I voted for the Conservative Party, or last year I voted for the Green Party, for example.
Yeah, so we use the verb to vote. You might ask someone, who did you vote for? However, cultural point here, very important. In the UK, in general, it's considered taboo to ask people who they voted for. We generally don't tell people who we vote for. It's not considered polite or the done thing. So like things such as your age, your salary, your marital status, and your political views, these are things that generally we don't ask people that we don't know very well. Okay? So you can say, who did you vote for? However, it's very rare that you will be asked that. Okay, so an open question for you now. Lily, why do you think it's important to vote?
Ooh, good question, Tom. I think, so in the UK, you can vote from the age of 18, so when you become an adult. And for me, it's really important to vote because it's an opportunity to express your opinion or how you would like to see the country run. An opportunity to be in touch with UK politics and know what's going on in the world and sort of exert your influence as a UK citizen. And on a personal note, I feel like women fought very hard to get the vote back in the day. So it's, as a woman, I feel like it's even more important to make sure that we use our power and use the voice that we have to make real change in a country.
Perfect. Some great answers there. Thank you, Lily. So we'll open it up to our students. Why do you think it is important to vote? Okay. Why do you think it is important to vote? We'll see what our students come up with. I'm just noticing some of the comments. Thank you, Felix. I think the mask is it's a good look. It's a good look. And yes, Catherine, Sinn Féin is very important in Northern Ireland. It's an important political party. Okay. So Françoise has said that she agrees with Lily and that as a woman, she thinks it's very important to keep that right. So it's important to vote. Okay.
Absolutely.
Any more ideas? Does anyone else have any ideas as to why it's important to vote?
Rosanna said that it's because it's the base of democracy, and that's a very good point. It's us that make a democracy, and it's our voices that exert this influence and make democracy run effectively. So absolutely agree.
Mm-hmm. So Yaya said it's the way to participate in democracy. Yes, in a similar vein. Good, yeah. So don't forget the spelling of democracy in English is with a CY at the end and not like a TIE in French. So on dit pas démocratie avec TIE, on dit démocratie avec TY. So, or CY, pardon. CY. Je mélange les deux.
Close.
It's close. Democracy, okay. So Mary has said it's important to vote to express our opinion. Yes. What else have people said?
It's a duty to vote. Yes, it can be a personal duty or a feeling of obligation that if you're given the right to vote, then yes, you should go ahead and use that duty.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Jean-Louis has said Churchill gave the right to women to vote. No, this is not true. Churchill did not give women the right to vote. Okay, Churchill was a bit later in British history. Women had the right to vote a bit before then, I believe. Okay, so Isabel has said to express our wishes. Yes. And Catherine has said also, as a woman, she thinks it's important to vote and to use all powers of democracy. Okay, perfect. Some great answers. Okay, however, not everyone might agree with you. And some people might choose not to vote. So, Lily, what kind of vocabulary can we use to say for someone who chooses not to vote or refuses to vote?
Mm-hmm. So you might abstain from voting. So that means you don't want to vote and you don't vote. Or you can spoil your ballot. And that means you've gone to do your vote, but instead of doing it correctly, so crossing the person you'd like to vote for, you ruin your ballot by doing a scribble on it, or potentially voting for everybody, or doing a silly drawing of some description, so your vote can't be counted.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so some people will choose to abstain, or they'll choose to abstain from voting, and others might choose to spoil their ballot, so by, as Lily was saying, scribbling or making a mess of their ballot. The ballot is the piece of paper that we tick or cross to vote, in order to vote. Okay, so another important verb is the verb to elect or to be elected. So this is the party that is ultimately chosen to represent the UK. Okay, so so Thierry has asked, when do we have a choice between different politics? I think you mean politicians. Yes, this is a good one. So in French, politique can mean either the person, so a politician, or politics as in a policy or sort of beliefs, okay? So in English, we have a politician, which is the person, and politics, which is the subject, okay? Or policies, which is what politicians decide on, okay? Yeah. So, when we have a choice, so we can either abstain, spoil our vote, or vote, and eventually someone is elected. Okay. So, to answer Thierry's question, the general election, which is when we vote for our government as a whole, happens every 5 years. Okay, every 5 years. So the next vote, I believe, is in 2024, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's a little way off because we had one recently, so it's a little way off. Okay. So as some of you have expressed, in some places around the world, it's forbidden, it's banned to abstain from voting. You have to vote. So Lily, do you know anywhere in the world where you have to vote?
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in Australia, if you don't vote, you risk having a fine. So that's one example. Yes,
so in some areas in the world, you can be fined for not voting. And as Paige has said, in your family in particular, you might have strong political views where you have to vote. And as Jean-Fabrice has said, it's a duty in Belgium to vote. So in Belgium, you have to vote, according to Jean-Fabrice. Okay, so that brings us nicely to the last sort of summary part of our YouTube Live. So we've gone through various sort of verbs. So in terms of the ways we can vote, you vote either in person, You can vote by post. This is called a postal vote. Or you can vote by proxy. This is when you ask a close family member to vote on your behalf, okay? So if you physically can't go to vote, you might send a family member to go and vote for you. Now, in terms of the system we use, some countries use a system called proportional representation, and this is where the percentage of votes equates to the percentage of seats in government. In the UK, we follow a system called first past the post, and this is more similar to the US style of elections, where it's more the number of constituencies and not the number of individual voters. So that was very complicated. I apologise for jamming that in at the end of our YouTube live, but if you're interested, you can ask us questions afterwards, or you can have a look up online. So we have proportional representation, and we also have first past the post. And the first past the post is the system we use in the UK. And I'll just type out as well the various types of voting.
Okay, so whilst Tom's writing that, I guess it's time for us to wrap up for this week. Thank you so much to everyone who came this week. And sadly, it is Tom's last YouTube live with us. He is finishing his internship and has been fantastic over the last few weeks with his interesting topics every week. So we'll definitely miss his weekly YouTube lives. Don't forget to subscribe. And please do come again next week for a very interesting theme on continuing what we're doing on the British Isles.
Okay, well, thank you, Lily. Yes, it's been a pleasure. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your week. It's been lovely to get to know some of you. And I hope you've enjoyed my lessons over the past few weeks. And keep going with your English, keep practicing, and I'm sure you will improve incredibly well. And so luckily, my wonderful colleague Lily will be leading the way with our YouTube lives in the future, as well as some of our other colleagues as well. So yes, have a lovely evening, stay safe, and yes, we will see you all very soon. Okay?
Bye guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.